The hum of the quantum drives filled the corridors of Dominion's edge like a heartbeat that never stopped. Captain Kim Soo-jin walked through the engineering section, her boots clicking against the metal floor. God around her. Dozens of humans worked at their stations, faces lit by the blue glow of alien screens. Soo-jin paused at a massive window that looked out into space. Stars stretched endlessly in all directions, but she had stopped finding them beautiful long ago. This ship was her world now, just as it had been for her father and his father before him. 3 generations of her family had served the Cathara Empire, and 3 generations had never set foot on Earth again. Captain Kim called out Lee Jinwoo from across the room. Young engineer was pointing at his screen with worry in his eyes. The quantum core is showing strange readings. Soo-jin hurried over to look. The numbers on the screen were jumping wildly. In the center of the engineering bay, the quantum drive core began to pulse with an angry red light instead of its usual calm blue. "What's happening?" she asked. "I don't know," Jinwoo said, his fingers flying over the controls. "The system just started acting up 5 minutes ago. The temperature is rising fast." Other engineers gathered around them. Park Min-soo, an older man with gray hair, shook his head as he looked at the readings. "If this keeps up, the whole life support system will fail. We've got maybe 30 minutes before the air recyclers shut down." Soo-jin felt her heart race. There were over 5,000 humans on this ship, all depending on the life support systems to keep them alive. She looked around at her team. These were good people, skilled workers who had spent their lives keeping alien machines running, but they had never been trained to handle something like this. "Can we contact the Cathara?" asked Jung Myung, a young woman who had joined the engineering team just last year. "They're in deep meditation cycle," Min-soo replied. "They won't respond for another 6 hours." Soo-jin clenched her fists. The Cathara always seemed to be unavailable when humans needed them most. She had noticed this pattern before, but never in such a dangerous situation. "We fix this ourselves," she said firmly. "Woo. Start running diagnostics on the cooling systems. Myung, check the power flow to the quantum stabilizers. Min-soo, you're with me. We're going into the core chamber." Core chamber was a place humans rarely entered. It was filled with technology that seemed to think for itself, with crystals that pulsed with their own light and machines that made no sound but somehow felt alive. Soo-jin and Min-soo put on protective suits and entered the chamber. The quantum core towered above them, a massive crystal structure that seemed to bend light around itself. Warning lights flashed red all around it, and the air felt thick and heavy. "Look at this," Min-soo said, pointing to a control panel. "These settings are all wrong." Someone changed the quantum frequency. Soo-jin studied the controls. Her grandfather had taught her father about these machines, and her father had taught her. The knowledge had been passed down in secret whispers because the Cathara didn't like humans to know too much about their technology. "This isn't an accident," she said slowly. "Someone did this on purpose. Who would do such a thing?" Min-soo asked before Soo-jin could answer. Her communicator crackled to life. "Captain, we're getting reports from all over the ship," Jinwoo's voice said. "The same malfunction is happening in 12 different sections, all at the same time." June felt a chill run down her spine. 12 sections failing at once was impossible unless someone had planned it. But who would want to kill thousands of humans? "We need to fix this now," she said. "Min-soo, help me reset the quantum frequency." They worked quickly, their hands moving over alien controls that felt cold and strange. The core began to pulse more slowly, and the red warning lights started to fade. "It's working," Min-soo said with relief. But Soo-jin wasn't celebrating yet. She was thinking about her grandfather's stories about the early days when humans first came to serve the Cathara. He had told her things that didn't make sense then, but were starting to make sense now. After they had fixed the core and left the chamber, Soo-jin went to her private quarters. She sat at her desk and pulled up the ship's computer system, using access codes that her grandfather had taught her long ago. She began to dig through old files and data logs. What she found made her blood run cold. The malfunction hadn't been random. It had been a test. The Cathara had caused it to see how humans would respond. This wasn't the first time. The files showed dozens of similar incidents over the years. systems failures that put human lives at risk, all carefully planned. By their alien masters. But why? What were the Cathera trying to learn? As Sujin read deeper into the files, she discovered something that changed everything. The Cathera weren't just testing human skills, they were testing human loyalty. And soon, they would have to decide whether humanity was still useful to them, or if it was time to find a replacement. The stars outside her window suddenly seemed very far away, and Earth seemed like nothing more than a distant dream. 3 days. After the quantum core incident, Sujin couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about those files, about the tests the Cathera had been running on humans. She needed to know more, but she couldn't do it alone. She found Lee Minho in the computer lab. At 2 in the morning, he was hunched over a terminal, his eyes red from staring at screens for too long. Was the best systems analyst on the ship, and more importantly, Sujin trusted him. Minho, she said quietly, I need your help with something. He looked up, surprised to see her. Captain, what are you doing here so late? I found something, she said. Something about the Cathara that we need to understand. She told him about the files, about the planned system failures. Minho's face grew serious as he listened. That's impossible, he said. Why would they risk killing their own workers? That's what I want to find out, Sujin replied. But I need someone who knows the computer systems better than I do. Minho nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Help me get into the deep archives. The files that are supposed to be locked away from humans. The next person they brought in was Dr. Park Hygiene. She used to study alien life forms before the Cathara decided she was more useful fixing air recyclers. She was older than both of them, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. You're playing a dangerous game, Hygiene said, when they explained what they were doing. If the Cathara find out, you're already planning something, Sujin said. I think we're in danger whether we investigate or not. Hygiene was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Show me what you found, the 3 of them began. Meeting in secret, using maintenance tunnels and empty storage rooms. Minho had figured out how to access the ship's oldest files without triggering security alerts. What they found was worse than any of them had imagined. The Cathara Empire was older than they had been told, much older, and humanity wasn't the first species to serve them. There had been others, dozens of others. Look at this, Minho said, pointing to a file on his screen. The Valari. They served the Cathara for over 200 years. They were skilled miners and engineers, just like us. What happened to them? Sujin asked. They disappeared, Hygiene said, reading from another file. According to this, they became obsolete and were recycled for optimal resource use. The 3 of them sat in silence, understanding what those words really meant. The Valari had been killed when the Cathara no longer needed them. Here's another one, Minho said. The Thek. They were scientists and builders. Served for 300 years before they were optimized. And another Hygion added. Zorn. They were good with electronics and computers. Just like Minho, they found records of 23 different species that had served the Cathara Empire. All of them were gone now. All of them had been destroyed when they were no longer useful. This is genocide, Sujin whispered. They don't just conquer worlds. They use up entire species and then throw them away. And look at this, Minho said, his voice shaking. He had found a planning document that made them all feel sick. Earth is scheduled for resource optimization in 15 years. They're going to strip mine the entire planet once they don't need humans anymore? Hygiene stood up suddenly. I need to show you something, she said. Something I wasn't supposed to tell anyone. She led them through a maze of maintenance tunnels to a section of the ship that wasn't on any official maps. They crawled through a narrow opening and found themselves in a hidden chamber. Welcome to the real human quarters, Hygiene said. The chamber was filled with people. Humans who were supposed to be working in other parts of the ship, but who had somehow found their way here. They had built their own workshops, their own living spaces, their own community. How long has this been here? Sujin asked. Since the first generation, replied an old man who stepped forward. Maim Choi Hyansu. My father was one of the original humans brought to this ship. He started this place. We know what the Cathara really are, said a young woman named Kim Dayun. We've been preparing for the day when they decide we're no longer useful. Sujin looked around in amazement. These people had built amazing things using scraps of alien technology mixed with human creativity. They had computers that worked, better than the official ones, tools that could fix things the Cathara said were impossible to repair, and weapons that could actually hurt the crystalline aliens. How many of you are there? She asked. On this ship? About 300, Hyensu replied. But we're not alone. There are hidden communities like this on every ship in the fleet. We've been talking to each other for years, sharing knowledge, and preparing? Preparing for what? Minho asked. For the day when we stop being servants, Dayun said. For the day when we take control of our own destiny. Sujin felt something change inside her. For the first time in her life, she realized that humans didn't have to accept their fate. They could fight back. What do you need from us? She asked. Information, Hyensu said. And when the time comes, we'll need people in command positions who are willing to stand with us. Sujin looked at Minho and Hyjin. They both nodded. Tell us what we need to do, she said. The message traveled through the ship's maintenance systems like electricity through wires. Hidden in the normal flow of data about air recyclers and power generators, coded words spread from one human community to another. Within hours, every secret human settlement on Dominion's edge knew what Sujin had discovered. They're calling it the Great Awakening, Minho said as he sat with Sujin in the hidden chamber. Around them, humans worked frantically at strange machines that looked like nothing the Cathara had ever built. How many ships are involved? Sujin asked. All of them, replied Kim Da-yoon, looking up from a device that seemed to be made of crystal and metal twisted together. Every ship in the fleet has received the message. Humans are waking up everywhere. Dr. Park Heejin approached them, her hands dirty from working on some complex machine. Sujin, there's something I need to tell you, something I've been hiding. For 20 years, she led them to a private corner of the chamber, where a group of older humans were gathered around what looked like a laboratory. I wasn't just a xenobiologist, Hyjin said. I was part of something called the Scientific Collective. We've been working in secret since the first generation of humans arrived. Working on what? Sujin asked. This Hyjin said, gesturing. To the machines around them. We've been stealing Cathara technology piece by piece, learning how it works and making it better. She showed them a device that looked like a crystal growing out of metal circuits. This is a quantum processor. It's 10 times faster than anything the Cathara have. We built it using their own components, but with human engineering principles. And this, said an old man named Park Seung-ho, is a power generator that runs on the same energy that Cathara use for their weapons. But we've made it more efficient, Sujin stared at the machines in amazement. How long have you been building these? Decades, Hyjin replied. Every generation has added to our knowledge. We've learned things about Cathara technology that even they don't know. Minho had been quiet, but now he spoke up. I've been doing something similar with their communication systems. I've mapped every network connection in the Empire. I know how every ship talks to every other ship. What does that mean? Sujin asked. It means when we're ready to act, we can coordinate across the entire fleet at the same time, Minho said. No ship will be fighting alone. For weeks, the preparations continued. Humans who had spent their lives fixing alien machines were now building their own. Workers who had been treated as servants were becoming soldiers. Scientists who had been forced to do simple maintenance were creating weapons that could challenge the Cathara. But the alien masters were not stupid. They'd ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had learned to watch for signs of rebellion. Su-Jin was in the main engineering bay when the alarm started. Red lights flashed throughout the ship, and the voice of a Cathara commander echoed through the corridors. Attention, all human workers, the crystalline voice said. Report to your designated containment areas immediately. Any humans found outside authorized zones will be eliminated. No, Minho said, his face pale. They've discovered what we're doing. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear the sounds of fighting. Humans were refusing to report to containment areas. Instead, they were fighting back. Containment Protocol Omega has been activated, the Cathera voice announced. All human sections will be jettisoned from the ship in 10 minutes. Automated systems will replace human workers. Sujin felt her heart sink. This was the Cathera's final solution. They were going to dump all the humans into space and let them die. Not if we stop them first, Dayun said, running into the engineering bay with a weapon in her hands. It looked like a mix of human and alien technology, and it hummed with dangerous energy. The hidden communities are fighting back, she said. We're taking control of the ship's systems. Can we stop the jettison sequence? Sujin asked. Not from here, Minho said, his fingers flying over his control panel. But I can access the main computer if we can get to the central command center. That's in the Cathara section, Hyjin said. No human has ever been allowed there. Then we'll be the first, Sujin said. They fought their way through the ship's corridors. The Cathara had activated their security systems, and deadly energy beams shot from hidden weapons. But the humans had prepared for this. They had studied the alien technology for decades, and they knew its weaknesses. Left corridor, shouted Park Sunjo, firing his hybrid weapon at a Cathara security drone. The weapon cut through the alien machine like it was made of paper. These weapons are incredible, Sujin said as they ran. We didn't just copy their technology, Hyjin said. We improved it. We made it better than they ever could. They reached the central command center to find it defended by a group of Cathera warriors. The crystalline beings were tall and beautiful, but their faces showed surprise and fear. They had never seen humans fight like this before. Impossible, one of them said. You are servants. You cannot possess such technology. We're not servants anymore, Sujin said, raising her weapon. We're writing our own destiny now. The battle for the ship had begun, and humanity was no longer the same species that had been brought into servitude generations ago. They had become something new, something the Cathera had never expected. The command center erupted in chaos as humans and Cathera clashed. Sujin ducked behind a control panel as crystalline energy beams cut through the air above her head. Cathera warriors moved with elegant precision. But the humans fought with something the aliens had never seen before. Unpredictable creativity. Minho, can you access the main computer? Sujin shouted over the sound of weapons firing. Give me 30 seconds. He replied, crawling toward a central terminal while Dayun and Sungho provided cover fire. Across the galaxy, the same scene was playing out on hundreds of ships. The message had gone out through Minho's communication network. The rising begins now. On mining stations, factory ships, and exploration vessels, humans were taking control of their own destiny. Sujin, just as her people fought with a combination of alien technology and human ingenuity. Li Jinwu, the young engineer who had first spotted the quantum core malfunction, was now using a modified cutting tool to slice through Cathera armor. Park Myung, who had once been afraid to speak up in meetings, was leading a team of fighters with the skill of a born commander. I'm in, Minho called out. The ship's computer is responding to me. Can you stop the jettison sequence? Sujin asked. Already done, Minho said, his hands moving quickly over the alien controls, and I'm sending a message to the other ships, telling them how to override their own systems. The lead Cathera warrior, a tall being with crystals that pulsed with angry red light, stepped forward. You cannot win, it said in its musical voice. We have ruled the galaxy for millennia. You are nothing but tools. We were tools, Sujin said, standing up with her weapon aimed at the alien. But tools can be used to build new things. We've built something you never expected. She fired, and the hybrid weapon cut through the Kithra's energy shield. Like it wasn't there. The alien fell, its crystals dimming to black. Impossible, whispered another Kithera. Our shields are perfect. Your shields protect against your own weapons, Hyjin said, stepping out from behind cover. But we've been studying them for decades. We know how to make weapons that can break through. The battle for Dominion's Edge was won within an hour, but it was just one ship among hundreds. Through Minho's communication network, reports came in from across the Empire. The humans were winning everywhere. On the mining station Crystal Depths, a former miner named Choi Byung-ho had figured out how to turn the station's industrial equipment into weapons. The massive drilling machines that had once carved up asteroids were now being used to break through Cathara defenses. On the factory ship, Endless Production, Dr. Song Yan-hee had convinced the ship's automated systems to work for humans instead of Cathara. The robots that had once built alien technology were now building human weapons. How are they doing it? Sujin asked, as she watched the reports come in. They're using everything we taught them, said an old woman named Kim Hyung-suk, who had joined them in the command center. Every skill, every bit of knowledge we've gained over 3 generations. Look at this, Minho said, pointing to his screen. The humans on Star Harvester have turned the ship's gravity controls into a weapon. They're using the artificial gravity to crush Cathara forces. And here Hajin added, the team on Voidwalker has figured out how to use the ship's navigation systems to create false realities. The Cathara can't tell what's real and what's not. Cathara had expected a rebellion. It prepared for armed resistance and coordinated attacks, but they hadn't prepared for this. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were turning the Cathara's own technology against them in ways the aliens had never imagined. We need to contact the other ships, Sujin said. Coordinate our efforts? Already done, Minho replied. I've established communication with every human force in the Empire. We're calling ourselves the Terran Synthesis. Why that name? Sujin asked. Because we're not just human anymore, Heejin said. We're something new. Synthesis of human creativity and alien knowledge. The final battle came when the Terran Synthesis forces reached the Cathara home fleet. The aliens had gathered their remaining ships around their capital vessel, Eternal Dominion, preparing for one last stand. Su-Jin now commanded a fleet of captured ships, each one modified with human improvements. Miners had become fleet commanders. Engineers had become weapons specialists. And scientists had become strategic masterminds. They're broadcasting a message, Minho said. The image of the Cathara High Command appeared on their screens. The alien leaders looked shocked and frightened, their crystals pulsing with confused colors. How? The lead commander asked. How did you inferior beings defeat us? We're not inferior, Sujin said. We're different. You gave us purpose, but you never understood what that purpose would create. You gave us your technology, added Dayun from another ship. But you never learned that humans don't just use tools, we improve them. You made us work together, said Byung-ho from his mining station. But you never realized that cooperation makes us stronger than any individual. Cathara High Command fell silent. For the first time in their long history, they were truly defeated. Not by superior technology or greater numbers, but by something they had never understood, the human ability to grow beyond their origins. What do you want from us? The lead commander finally asked. We want you to learn, Sujin said. Learn. That true strength comes not from domination, but from helping others reach their potential. The Cathara Empire was ending, but something new was beginning. The age of the Terran Synthesis had begun. Admiral Kim Soo-jin stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at a sight that would have been impossible just 6 months ago. Ships of dozens of different species flew together in perfect formation, their hulls painted with the star and circle symbol of the Terran Synthesis. Admiral called out Captain Lee Minho from his station. We're receiving messages from the Valari colonies. You want to join the Synthesis? Sujin smiled. The Valari had been one of the species the Cathara had marked for extinction, but hidden groups had survived in the far reaches of space. Now they were coming home. Send them coordinates for the integration ceremony, she said. Tell them we're honored to have them. The bridge was a marvel of cooperation. Human engineers worked alongside Cathara technicians who had chosen to join the Synthesis. Former Thek scientists shared knowledge with Dr. Park Hae-jin, who is now the Synthesis's chief technology officer. Even some Zorn computer specialists had emerged from hiding to help build the new civilization. It's hard to believe, said Kim Dal-yoon, who now served as the ship's diplomatic officer. 6 months ago, we were just trying to survive. Now we're building something the galaxy has never seen. Through the ship's communication system, reports came in from across the former Cathara Empire. The oppressive factories had been converted into schools and research centers. The prison ships had become hospitals and cultural centers. Everywhere, Species that had been enslaved were now free to pursue their own destinies. Admiral Minho said, "We're getting a priority message from Earth." Sujin's heart jumped. Earth, the planet her grandfather had left behind. The world she had only seen in old pictures and dreams. The synthesis had been too busy liberating other worlds to return home, but now it was time. "Put it through," she said. The image that appeared on the screen made her gasp. It was a transmission from Earth's surface, showing cities that sparkled, with technology that was both human and alien. But more amazing than the buildings were the people. Humans and aliens walked together through streets filled with art and music from 100 different worlds. "This is President Park Jae-sung of the Earth Council," said a middle-aged man with kind eyes. "Admiral Kim, we're ready to welcome our children home." The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. The synthesis fleet was huge now, not just because of the ships they had captured, but because so many species wanted to be part of this new beginning. Former slaves had become explorers, engineers had become diplomats, and warriors had become teachers. As they approached Earth, Sujin stood in the ship's observation deck with her senior staff. The planet was beautiful, blue and green and white, just like in the old pictures, but it was also different. Strange new structures orbited the planet, and the lights on the night side showed patterns that were clearly not entirely human. The Cathara who stayed behind helped build those, explained Park Sung-ho, who had become the synthesis's chief architect. They wanted to contribute something to make up for what their people had done. "Are you nervous?" Hyjin asked Sujin. A little, Sujin admitted. "My grandfather left this world as a human. I'm returning as something else." "Something better," Dayun said. "Something that can help the galaxy grow." The landing ceremony was held in what had once been Seoul, but was now a city that combined human architecture with alien technology. Buildings grew like crystals from the ground while floating gardens drifted through the air. The streets were filled with beings from across the galaxy, all of them free. Sujin walked through the crowd, amazed by what she saw. Children who were clearly human played with children who had scales, or fur, or crystals for skin. They laughed together, learned together, and created art that no single species could have imagined. "Look at this," Minho said, pointing to a school that seemed to be built from living crystal. "The building itself is teaching the children. It responds to their questions and shows them how things work." Beside the school, Sujin watched as a human girl and a young Cathara worked together on a project that combined human creativity with alien precision. Their teacher was a Vex scientist who had spent decades in hiding but was now free to share her knowledge. "What are you building?" Sujin asked the children. "A new kind of star," the human girl said proudly. "One that can give light to planets that are too far from their suns. And it will be beautiful too," added the young Cathara. "Not just useful, but beautiful." This was what the synthesis had created. Not just freedom from oppression, but freedom to dream, to create, to become something greater than any single species could achieve alone. Later that evening, Sujin stood in the memorial garden that had been built to honor those who had died. Under Cathara rule, the names of 23 extinct species were carved into walls of living light, so they would never be forgotten. "They didn't die for nothing," Hyjin said, joining her. "Their sacrifice led to this. The Cathara gave us purpose," Sujin said. "But we gave the galaxy something better. We gave it hope." Above them, the stars shone with new light. Ships from the synthesis fleet carried teachers, scientists, and artists to worlds that had never known freedom. The galaxy was writing its own destiny now, and every species had a part to play in the story. The age of domination was over. The age of cooperation had begun.